We've just found a way to make it spiritual. I'm going to give you an example. Whoa. There was a he was not famous for a long time, but when he was famous, he was famous. He was a healing evangelist. He was all over the television. People would flock to his meetings in Florida. And from all over the world, because something was going on in Florida. Now, this is interesting to listen to this man preach and some of the claims he made. You may have heard him say this, but he said he was sitting in a meeting once, and he had this vision. This big old shaft of light just shot down in front of him. So it's like something out of Star Trek. And it was a pillar of fire almost. And he felt the Lord say, "Get in." And so he got in, and then this pillar of fire transported him up through the ceiling of the church and way up into heaven. And he got up into heaven. And angels met him in heaven, and they put him on an operating table. And they cut him open, and his guts spilled out. And while they were operating on him, they had little white boxes, and they put little white boxes inside of him. Then they sewed him up. They put him back in the shaft of light, and he went back down, and boom, he's back down in the church meeting. And by now, his whole audience is going, whoa. And he began to explain what that vision was all about. The little boxes contained knowledge and wisdom and character. And because the time is short, because God didn't have the 30 or 40 years it would take to prepare his vessel, he had to do it quick. So he took this guy up to heaven, he cut him open, and he put wisdom and knowledge and experience into him and sewed him up and sent him back down. Bam! Like that. I just want to tell you something. In the broad, big picture of our lives, God does not just dump knowledge, wisdom, and character into us. He builds those things in us as we go through the middle. You actually have to read your Bible. You have to learn from life as God guides you. There are no easy, instant gratification, bumpless roads through the Christian life. You will not find them in the Bible, and you sure won't find them in our present day. Life is not that way. Oh, yeah, I remember, this is quite a few years ago. There was this big thing going on up in Toronto. People were barking and clucking like chickens and rolling on the floor and sizzling like bacon and doing all kinds of odd things. And which is not really what I'm going to be talking about, but I was at lunch. I just preached at a church, and we were having lunch with the pastor, and there was some Bible school students there, and one gal was sitting across from me, and we were talking about all this. And what do you think? Is it of God? Is it not of God? Is it going back and forth? And anyway, this one gal says, I just want everything God has for me. And that's good. That's good. But remember what we're talking about here. She's probably, 19, 20? Hadn't lived a whole long time. But I got to thinking about that. Everything that God has for me. Is everything I think God has for me really everything that God has for me? A lot of folks, when they say, everything God has for me, they're thinking signs and wonders, miracles, health and wealth, a parking place right where I need it, never being sick, getting drunk in the Spirit, falling under the power, a prophetic word just for me, angelic visions. Now, just to give you a qualification here, I am from an Assemblies of God background. I don't have problems with the gifts of the Spirit in operation today. Now, I'm just telling you that so that you don't think I'm being all cracked off. This is where I'm coming from. But what I want to say is, she wants everything God has for her, and she's thinking about all this stuff. Let me tell you, more than anything else, 99.999999999% of the time, everything God has for you is, pardon the pun, real life. I go to a church by that name, so I'm not, it's not real life. Oh boy, what does Romans say? We glory in tribulations, also knowing that tribulation works patience, patience experience, experience hope. James, of course, again, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing that the trying of your faith works patience. Look what Peter says, beloved. Do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal among you which comes upon you for your testing, as though some strange thing were happening to you. He was addressing direct persecution in that time, but just for the record, all this stuff talks about, tribulation, hardship, suffering, challenges are normal to the Christian life. Do you know why they are normal to the Christian life? Because they are normal to life. Reality. We all have to live there. You can live in denial. You can approach your Christian walk thinking like a child. But sooner or later you're going to stub your toe and wonder why. Qualifier. Well, doesn't God help us? Yes, He does. He carries us when we need it. He strengthens. He builds. He turns bad things around for our good. But one thing God will not do? He will not spoil you. It's the old example of the trees that grow too close together. I've got forest land where I live. It's true. When you have a whole bunch of trees just growing together, and they're protected from the wind, and they don't have to worry about standing up straight or anything. They just go whoop, and they go, all the trees around them, and they all grow together, and they all go. It's like a whole forest of toothpicks. And when you cut down the trees around them, then they fall right over. They got roots about that deep. God strengthens you by requiring you to be strong. He builds your faith by putting you into situations where you need it. It's a simple matter of spiritual exercise. Now, oh boy, I hate telling this story, but here it goes.